Economists are forecasting another rough week for American workers. They expect millions of new claims for jobless benefits for a third straight week. And it will follow a monthly job report with losses not seen in years. U.S. payrolls declined by 701,000. More than 7 times what economists expected, and the first drop since 2010. Let's bring in Lindsey, Piegza, chief economist at Stifel Nicolaus, for more perspective on the U.S. job market and the economy. Lindsey, great to have you with us. So really, it was a surprising drop, and really a crash of the jobs market even before the mandatory shutdowns went into place in several parts of the United States. How bad is this?
It's pretty bad. It was a disappointing report by any means, but this was only 1/10 of the job losses that have already been reported according to the last 2 weeks of claims data. So we know that although this report was bad, it's going to get worse from here. And as you mentioned, a lot of the survey missed the shutdowns that we saw. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, just to put this in perspective, collects that survey data during the week of the month that contains the 12th. So this was a week before even California issued their first statewide stay-at-home order. So since then, we've had about 40 states announce the closure of non-essential businesses and stay-at-home orders, shelter-in-place. So the March report was bad in and of itself, but April could be 2 or 3 times as worse.
Of course, there are high hopes on the fact that the U.S. just passed its $2 trillion stimulus package. But how important is the execution of how these measures are put in place and how fast?
Well, I think that the $2 trillion relief aid was a step in the right direction, and this will help provide a bridge for many workers that are struggling to put food on the table, make their rent payments. It's also going to help businesses bridge that gap and keep some individuals on the payroll and be able to pay their expenses as well. But this is hardly a panacea. $2 trillion, while it sounds like an enormous amount of money, is not going to cover all of the lost income, revenue, consumption, spending. And so there still is going to be a sizable hit to individuals and businesses. And as you mentioned, there's also a timing gap here. Yes, it was passed, but it could be 2 to 3 weeks before we see those monies actually land into the hands of business owners and individuals. So it's going to be very painful between now and receiving those checks, and then even more painful between receiving those funds and when we're able to reopen the economy.
Lindsey, is there a better way of doing this to be able to get money into cash-strapped households and business owners? There's been increased kind of debate about whether now is a good time to talk about UBI.
I think the best way to eradicate this issue is get the virus under control and get the economy reopened. That's really the best long-term plan to prosperity, getting individuals and businesses back to a healthy perspective from a balance sheet. There really isn't a better way to get monies to these individuals at a faster rate. The administration is very much committed to helping individuals, helping businesses, but it's an imperfect system. Certainly these are unprecedented times, but I don't think that going to a universal basic income, as you suggest, is really the best scenario. This is an unprecedented situation. This is not something that we expect to continue on a reoccurring basis. We have to put outside-the-box thinking in place, and really that comes down to how do we control this health crisis in order to get the economy up and running once again.
And so much of that, determines what happens with the recovery, right? I'm wondering how much confidence you have in modelling of what the recovery looks like, because even just a few weeks ago, we were talking about a V-shaped recovery and then a U-shaped recovery. Lots more voices saying that it could be L-shaped, where we have kind of permanently lost output and economic activity. Modelling done by the San Francisco Fed suggesting that we'll have depressed rates of, natural interest for 20, 30, 40 years after this. So is there any confidence that we know what the post-virus recovery will even look like?
Yeah, according to the St. Louis Fed, they are looking for total projections of about 47 million job losses and an unemployment rate of over 30%. But I want to caution listeners, that's more of the worst case scenario. Our base case is somewhere between the worst case and the best case scenario. We are still optimistic that the administration will be able to get this virus under control and reopen the economy by the end of April, early May. If that does occur, it is likely that we're able to control the downturn from a depressionary scenario into a recessionary scenario. Still painful, absolutely, but a recession is much more agreeable as opposed to what the St. Louis Fed has been projecting, as you suggested. That being said, in terms of the shape of the recovery, we are looking for a U-shaped recovery. It's not going to be a flip-the-switch scenario even after the economy reopens. It's going to take time for businesses to reconnect with workers. It's going to take time for businesses to reconnect with supply chains. And on the flip side, on the demand side, there's still going to be a hesitancy on the consumer side to go back out into the marketplace, either because of lingering fears or crippled finances.
Lindsey,
so it's going
Piegza,
to be a slow recovery.
Thank you very much. We'll have to leave it there. Chief Economist at Stifel, Nicolaus, and we have breaking news. We are